After much anticipation and waiting, we now have seen Wolfenstein 2 footage, both off-screen and direct feed. How does this port look? Is it better than Doom? And is this the best that ports will get on the Switch? What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Switchforce. Gabe is here, and while regrettably we're not at PAX, we have been keeping tabs on all of the demos and all of the footage, probably the most interesting being Wolfenstein 2. This is a very graphically intensive game, one that looked remarkably well on PS4 and Xbox One, and now Panic Button is bringing it to the Switch. No set date yet, but now we know what the game looks like, how it runs, and we've seen quite a bit of footage. Gabe, what is your initial impression?
My very first impression was that this looks comparable to what Doom looked like, except just a little bit better. Unfortunately, still 30 FPS, the resolution still going to be lower, and those are just concessions that are going to have to be made, and by this point, they're common sense, so we're not going to focus on that too much. To me, the bigger question is the thing that you mentioned, like, is this as good as ports can get on Nintendo Switch? That is something that I would love to talk about here in a moment, but, you know, overall, I think it does look a little bit better than Doom. The game's not coming out like this month or anything as far as we know, so maybe they're still like polishing up some stuff. We do see some like frame rate dips, even though, you know, it's supposed to be 30. It does occasionally dip during the footage that we saw, so I'm a little bit worried about that, but overall I still think it looks decently good.
Yeah, I think it looks really good, and now obviously some of that is this is just a newer game, so inevitably it should look better being a game that was built at a later date. To me, it looks better, and maybe that's bias. I've gone back and you know, looked at Doom and tried to really compare them. Some of the same issues are there. You mentioned them, Gabe, some of the frame rate dips. Obviously, the big one is the 30 versus 60, still an issue. It does still look a little washed out, and you mentioned that might be just a texture issue, but to me, it feels washed out. I personally, though, from a pure visual standpoint, not performance, visually, like, this looks good. I think, like, yes, side by side you can tell, but on its own, which is how you're going to be playing this, you're not going to set your PS4, Xbox One, or PC next to the Switch and play them, you know, one hand in each.
Watch me.
I think it looks plenty good, and it's awesome because they once again have done a really great job. Panic Button delivering possibly the best port work on the system, Rocket League, Doom, and now Wolfenstein 2. For me, the issue going forward is still the frame rate, because it does have an impact on gameplay, especially in these shooters. You know, we mentioned it during our hands-on with Doom and your eventual, you know, review of Doom, Gabe. It encourages much more of a strafing style of shooting than you would incorporate into your gameplay on, say, PS4, Xbox One. And to me, it's not the visual appearance, it's more that performance hit that is the issue, and that I just wish wasn't there.
Yeah, I want to ask you something, though. I know you played Wolfenstein 2 a little bit, right? But if you hadn't, would you be disappointed if you were waiting for the Switch port now that you've seen this?
From a pure visual standpoint, absolutely not. I think it looks really good, and I know we shouldn't be because it does have great innards, but I'm still impressed that this little hybrid can pull that off. And I think from, like, again, a visual standpoint, totally on board. But even if I had not played Wolfenstein, I would be able to recognize that my gameplay is not what I'm used to in terms of how I approach a fast-paced shooter, and that was apparent in Doom as well.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it already, right? But the fact that strafing is such a big part of aiming, just because, you know, if you played this in 60 FPS or if you played Doom in 60 FPS and then you play the Switch version, the differences are pretty glaring. But honestly, like, I think it looks good enough to where if you haven't experienced those and, you know, Nintendo platforms are your platform of choice, I think you're still going to have a really good time with this. Like, you already kind of sung their praises a little bit here, but Panic Button is doing some really, really good work over there. There was an update to Rocket League just recently where they have the visual upgrade where now the game will like look better, but it's running at 30 FPS, and you have that option. And I would hope that Wolfenstein would do something like that, but I don't think it's happening. I think getting 60 FPS on this thing is not something that's very attainable, no matter how much you lower the resolution and the textures and everything. But right. I feel like that would be very good. But Panic Button's doing an awesome job, and I'm honestly like incredibly impressed with what they have going on here. I actually haven't played Wolfenstein 2. Switch is going to be where I play it, and I feel pretty okay about that. Gameplay aside, right? Because the aiming. Other than that, it looks very comparable to cutscenes. We saw a couple of them here in the footage. They're good. It looks quite good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're talking again about docked footage. We'll link to it in the description below. Have yet to really see much handheld. And just to clarify, if you don't know what I'm talking about, when we say aiming, it's more of a moving your body to line up your target rather than directly moving your reticle and your gun to line up your target. And somehow that just, it happens with the frame drop. And, Gabe, looking to the future, is this as good as ports get? I wonder if maybe this is just an issue with this specific type of game, specifically with a Doom or a Wolfenstein 2. If this is a natural 30 FPS game, we're not even having this conversation. We're just saying, wow, it looks good, and I'm excited to play it on Switch.
Yeah, I would say the only thing about that is games are just naturally progressing towards a 60 FPS.
That is very valid.
Yeah, as these consoles get more and more powerful, the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X out there, we have some rumblings of even more future consoles coming, being announced at E3, of course not being released this year or anything like that. But as that happens, AAA games that we want to come day and date to Switch are going to be 60 FPS just by nature. So
yeah,
that's something that I think we're always going to have to deal with as Switch fans. Just the fact that, hey, no matter how much you want it to be 60 FPS, it's probably not going to, unless you're a game like Rocket League where you can do that. But
right.
For big stuff like this, I think that's just a concession that's always going to need to be made.
Right, and one thing to bring up is that Panic Button, this is not their first rodeo, and so in theory, they should have more of a grasp on the system and the different nuances of development, bringing a better effort. Obviously, we don't know, what Activision is bringing, what Ubisoft is bringing, but do you think that, given what they did with Rocket League, that Panic Button is doing the best job, or is there the potential for someone to come along and say, hey, we have found a way to improve even upon this from, say, a different developer, different publisher, different game?
I hate to be the cynical, but I think this is as good as it's going to get for ports. I hope I'm wrong. I'm open to being wrong, but with the hardware that's in the Switch, I don't know how you get this visual performance with the 60 FPS. I don't think that's something that can happen with the current Switch hardware.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel similar. I think I don't want to say never. I think there is an opportunity for optimization as we see through any generation of a console. Visually, I think this is what we're going to get, and I think it's perfectly good, and not even adequate, but good. I would love to see if there's some way, like you said, whether it's offering through a mode to open us up to more chances to experience these games in 60 FPS. And, we'll get it from some more naturally built games for the Switch. It's just the ports that are going to be a little bit tricky. And, yeah, I think at the end of the day, you got to feel pretty good about a game that was a graphical showpiece for the, far more graphically intense consoles looking this darn good on the Switch. And I think, before this console release, we would never have expected it to be able to produce Wolfenstein 2 looking this good.
Yeah, I will give one more shout out to one more port that I played recently. Outlast 2. That port is really good. That game looks and runs very well on Switch. So smaller games like that aren't super graphically intensive, they will still do well. It's just things like this that you mentioned are just inherently very fast-paced experience that requires such precision. This isn't going to be the best platform for them, but I am very happy that this still seems like it's a good port. And I don't think anyone that's going to play Wolfenstein 2 on Switch is going to be disappointed. I think that the experience is still going to be good. Panic Button has proven themselves.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see, and hopefully the sports games that come out this year, maybe they can improve. But as of right now, feeling pretty good about Wolfenstein 2. No date yet, but we'll keep you posted on that. Let us know how you think it looks. There's a link in the description if you want to check out the different direct feed and the footages from the sources that we saw it at. We want to know your take, though. Are you pleased with this? Do you wish it looked better? Do you think ports, this is the peak? And if it is the peak, how do you feel about it? Let us know in the comments down below, guys and girls. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest from the Switch and new titles like this one. Follow us on Twitter and Discord. Links in the description below. And until next time, my friends, for myself and Gabe, thanks so much. Have a great day. Switch Force out.